Good morning. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Zoning and Planning Committee. I will ask the folks who've appealed to come up and speak first.
We're a group of very concerned neighbors. We strongly question the livability of some of the one-bedroom units.
Tenants like me, or renters like me, are looking for rentals that are considered more affordable. I mean, we can't always afford the luxuries of that you'll find at some of the new projects like Flux.
두 번째, 렌터의 차소유 유무를 예측할 만한 자료가 없습니다.
And there is not enough evidence or data to expect how many cars the renters will own on the average.
We've had at least 2 meetings, public meetings, where we've had extensive public comment on this project. It was apparent that there is a lot of support in the neighborhood for the project.
This year alone, the Planning Commission has had 118 requests for variances. They have approved 91 as of the September 15th meeting. That's 91. Out of the 6 denied so far this year, 5 are signage requests. Apparently in Minneapolis, signage undergoes more scrutiny than the buildings themselves.
The variances that have to do with the utility box, the pergola, the setbacks for the front yard, that's not even defensible to come in and say those are bad things. These are good things. We want them to have a setback that's bigger, closer to the houses. We want them to put a pergola in the back. We'd love for them to move the utility boxes.
Today I stand before you to advocate for the 25 residents who call 2316 and 2320 Colfax Avenue South home. In the house next door, this is legally 16-unit rooming house. So it's what we call a cash cow. These residents are low income and in many cases vulnerable adults. If you approve this project and all of its variances, what happens to these people, these renters? This project is blatant gentrification. It displaces long-term, low-income wedge renters who have limited options. Please, do the right thing, do the decent thing, do the prudent thing.
Always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
We have a duplex next door to me. Great duplex. 6 people in that, in that duplex. 5 cars. 5. The other tenant that doesn't have one is in the process of buying. So buying the fact that we're projecting people to live here without cars is absolutely a wonderful goal. It's great in theory. It is not reality right now.
Good morning. My name is Jana Flussrand, and I am also a landlord. Look, it's a 4-unit building. There are 9 bedrooms in the building. It had space for about 8 cars on my site, and my parking was always in high demand. That has changed dramatically in the 18 years that I've lived in that building. Today, and this is true for the last 5 years, I do not have more than 1 car for all of the residents in my building. I cannot fill the 4 parking spaces that are on my site. I am only able to rent those out to other people in 100-year-old buildings that have no parking a block or 2 blocks away.
I'm going to make my position pretty clear on this. I completely oppose the demolition of the Orth House. This is a totally different situation. Getting up and talking about how many variances the Planning Commission has approved is not relevant to these specific variances. Getting up and making the argument that poor people are going to be moved because of gentrification is not relevant to these variances. All we have in front of us essentially is the testimony by Councilmember Tuthill, which is that the parking variance in and of itself is going to change the essential character of the neighborhood. And to some extent, I do agree with you on that. But I have a long history of asking developers in my ward to build less parking. And I think that that's something that we need to be looking really hard at. I have advocated for us to have maximum parking requirements and have them be low rather than minimum. And I think we want to see less parking in these really dense locations, which is just like where I used to live in Loring Park. And I think that these are variances that are justifiable despite the fact that I am very open to the idea of denying a variance, I don't think it makes sense in this particular situation.
I'm not a millennial, and I think one of the things we have to think about for our city is do we change the essential nature of our community to accommodate a demographic blip that will move through their lifestyle, and their needs will change. What I wanted when I was 20 years old and 30 years old is different than the lifestyle that I have now. And
I live just around the corner from here, so I'm happy to speak on this issue. I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of my neighbors, and I can say that the parking issue, as you saw today from the hearing, is it's something that people are split on. This neighborhood has one of the highest walk scores in the city. That's why I chose to live here, and because we can walk my daughter to school, I bike to work, I take the bus, I walk to the grocery store. A lot of my neighbors do that, and I know that from talking with them. And so I want to acknowledge that certainly not everyone feels that way, and there are absolutely people who feel that we should add more parking than is even required. But we have such a small percentage of our city that is on the kind of transit corridor that we have here. It's not a high frequency bus to the university. There's the 6, the 4, the 17, all within walking distance. We have such a small percentage of the land in our city that has this kind of transit access. I just saw some amazing research done in Boston, where they showed they have 6% of their land in Boston that is considered high frequency transit. And they found that if you build a typical development there with the typical parking that you see in other neighborhoods, people don't take transit. They drive at the same rates as others. But if you build transit-oriented development, that reduces the amount of cars that are there. People self-select.